He's back.
I'm gonna keep going.
Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the PHNX Suns Podcast. I'm Espo. That is Gerald. It is Christmas in, what are we in, September?
You know what's funny is before we started the show, before we got the news, Espo was determined to start the show for the third day in a row with something that was grinding his gears. And I'm so happy that we were able to get this wonderful news that just turned your entire outlook around.
Oh no, we're still doing that to start.
Oh, good.
Hit the sounder, Eric, if you got it.
Breaking news.
Frank, everybody! Frank Kaminsky is back. Eric, you got that other thing? Can you hook a brother up here?
Oh, what is
Get
this?
It in here.
Oh no!
I missed. I missed my one shot. The Cove is back, baby! We're going to the Cove! Kaminsky Cove! We're back, baby! We're back! Frank Kaminsky is here on a training camp invite, but it's going to last longer because the 15th roster spot's open. And I believe my man Frank is here to stay! I'm so excited, Gerald. We got a one-shot on Gerald so I can give all this stuff back here.
I couldn't tell how excited you were.
No?
No. This is a fantastic day for your positive outlook.
It is. This is the most vibes I've felt all summer.
That's great.
Except for when I saw Frank at Summer League. But you know what? Frank Kaminsky back. His agency broke this news.
They did.
This morning, and nobody seemed to notice the Priority Sports tweet until this afternoon. And then you got confirmation it is in fact a training camp invite.
Yes, it's a training camp invite, so it is not the 15th roster spot. We know that they still have that open. We know that they've signed a number of guys to Exhibit 10 deals and training camp invites. So Frank is going to get an opportunity to possibly earn that roster spot, but nothing set in stone there yet. He has been working out with the team. He moved here at the start of August. His wife lives here as well. They just got recently married, as you well know.
Summer.
Yes, because you were clearly there. But yeah, so Phoenix is home for Frank. This is where he's felt most comfortable in his career, as we've talked to him about before. And he's really excited about this opportunity to compete for a roster spot. Like I said, been working out with the team for several weeks now. And now this has kind of lined up to where he'll get an opportunity.
Let me be the first one to say it. We're going streaking. How many in a row can we win? Not one, not two. Look, the 35-point Frank scoring 35-point bet is alive again.
Oh, we're back on.
We're back on.
Oh, I love that.
If Frank scores 35 points at any point, including preseason,
okay,
I'm getting a tattoo.
Love that.
All right, that's gonna happen. It's on now, and I'm not afraid anymore because I have my first. So,
well, that's true,
yeah,
and it's also less of a thing to be afraid of because he still has to earn a roster spot.
Well, I mean, he could do it in preseason.
He could.
I told you that's allowable.
And he does bring something to the table that we've talked about that the Suns don't currently, like maybe they have it if Nurk makes a leap that we're not anticipating, but they could use a stretch five. Frank is a stretch five, and he brings a little bit of the passing. He's not as good of a passer as like a Nurk or maybe even an Oso, but he's a good connector at the top of the key, and being able to spread the floor as a three-point shooter is something we've seen Mike Budenholzer have in his system. So as much as he'll have to earn a spot, as much as nothing is guaranteed, Frank is feeling as good as he has in a while physically, and can't rule him out.
Yeah, and we talked about vibes too being something that this team lacked last year. Obviously, he's also a good locker room guy, a good bench guy, and the team was actually visibly upset when they let him go the last time. So I think this is actually a great opportunity for him. As I mentioned, we had caught up with him in Summer League, and he did talk about the opportunity to get back in the NBA and what it would mean to him.
I mean, yeah, I definitely want to continue to keep playing. You know, an NBA opportunity would be amazing. You know, that's really the hard part about my whole situation is I felt like I was in a great spot in Phoenix, playing for a really good team, and I just got hurt at a bad time. It felt like twice. 2 times there I got hurt at bad times, and, you know, that's unfortunately part of the sport. Injuries happen, and they suck every single time, and it's taken me a while to feel comfortable and healthy and everything again, and I'd like to be able to have another shot, another opportunity, but you know, kind of once you leave and go over there, it's hard to make it back, but, you know, I like the challenge of hopefully potentially being able to do that.
I think that was the one serious question I asked him in that Summer League interview, but I'm glad that, you know, it's obvious he does not take it for granted. He understands the reality of getting the opportunity, but he wants to put in the hard work to make it work. I know I goof around a lot when it comes to Frank, but I think this is a great opportunity for him. I'm glad that he's going to get that because good guys who work hard deserve that shot. And it's good to see him at least getting the training camp invite, and now it's up to him. He's got to make the most of it. If he legitimately wants to be in the league, he's got to go out there in camp in preseason and show that he can offer this team something that they may not have on the roster. He has to go out there and hit those 3-pointers. He has to prove to Bud that I'm the kind of guy you want in this system. Maybe I don't get a lot of minutes, but when I do, I'll try to make them as impactful as possible from beyond the arc. And I don't mind the idea because it gives you a little buffer if Oso isn't the guy that you hope, because he's not everything that Oso does, but he's somebody that could kind of play that role if need be for you. So I think the opportunity's there.
There are a lot of question marks at that center spot right now. You could use another rebounder because, as we've talked about last year, it was basically Nurk holding the Suns rebounding together. So adding another 7-footer certainly doesn't hurt, especially when your backup center, Mason Plumlee, struggled to stay healthy last year. When Nurk, even though he's coming off a very healthy season, has historically had some problems staying healthy. And then your third guy is Oso, who we really like, but he is also a rookie. There's going to be a learning curve there. So it wouldn't hurt if you're looking at a 15th roster spot, especially if he plays well in training camp and preseason, if he's able to show the Suns something in whatever opportunities he gets. I'm not saying it's, you know, the most likely outcome or that it's going to happen, but he's got a shot, which is exciting because Frank really connected with fans during his time here and vice versa.
So can I tell you what grinds my gears?
Oh, sure. We're going back negative now.
Espo seems angry is what we're calling it.
Okay.
How cool would it have been if I had caught that inflatable rather than letting it bounce off my hand?
It would have been cooler on the first take for sure.
It kind of seemed like you punched it.
Like
you were afraid.
I tried to close my hand. I closed too early.
Yep.
You were just too excited. It's okay.
Yeah, I was very, very excited. A premature jocularity. I apologize.
Oh,
Leo in the chat says, Espo would lose his mind if Jock Landale was traded here with Frank still being on the team. That's like your ex meeting your new girlfriend. Like, it could be a little awkward. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Look, we will talk plenty more. Stay tuned
for more exes meeting on the PHNX show.
We're efforting to get Frank to come on the program. We will talk more about this as training camp kind of plays out and see what the reality is for Frank, because it's obviously a numbers game, but we want to talk a little bit about that numbers game in the roster today. And we're going to take a look at what, last year's team compared to this year's team, 1 through 14. We didn't include Frank. It happened too late, but 1 through 14, if this team is actually better this year or if they're just more of the same.
Okay.
So we'll start at the top because that's kind of the easiest area to get through, and I wasted so much time talking about Frank and my excitement. We'll start there.
Okay.
We'll start with number 1, right? And Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant, I love that we have the same image with slightly different lighting on it here. Is Kevin Durant?
Is it different
last
lighting,
year?
or is it just the same?
or
No,
is
it's I literally
think it's the
copied
s-
paste.
my
I think it's
eyes
the
are
same
terrible.
I think
No,
it's
now
the
you
same
got me
image.
tripping.
So is Kevin? Well, okay. Is Kevin Durant from last year the same guy as this year?
You hope so. I think heading into last year, we had some reservations. Like, he's probably going to miss some time due to injury, because if you looked at his last couple of seasons, he had missed games here and there. And obviously, there was the Achilles injury, which took him out for a whole season and then limited his next season back. He had his healthiest season in like 5 years. He was tremendous, second team All NBA, probably the best defender on the Suns, best overall player on the Suns last year. I don't know if you can expect that from him again this year. I hope that you can, in terms of like being that good and staying that healthy. That's a hell of a combination. I don't want to bet against him either, though, is the thing. Like, he's the type of player that historically you just don't bet against. So I don't know if you want to mark that as kind of an equal sign, or maybe last year's is slightly greater than this year, just because we don't know how healthy he'll be. But either way, it's very close.
I'm going to say equal.
Okay.
Right. I think, yeah, maybe he'll play a handful fewer games, and that's fine. I think overall, though, you're going to get the same kind of production from Kevin Durant. I don't see some massive drop off. I also don't see some massive improvement, because he was one of the best guys in the NBA last year. So I don't foresee some massive jump, and that's just fine. I think if you get Kevin Durant from last year, you are going to be in a very good spot. So I'm going to say that's an equal, and that's a good thing. That's not a slight in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, Devin Booker going to be next on this list.
How does the lighting look for this one?
I'm telling you, to me, looks like two different lights.
I think it might just be because
it
of the
might
lights
be the
on our
actual
set.
light in the studio.
I think that
Espo's going blind live
well,
on air.
that could be it too. My left eye could be worse than my right.
spent too much time staring at the sun in Kaminsky Cove.
This
for
is
the
like the
first 5
Office
minutes.
meme where it's like corporate wants you to find the difference between these two pictures, and it's just Espo with two headshots of Devin
They're
Booker.
the
You want to
same
know
picture.
something funny? I'm not lying. As we're sitting here, Frank Kaminsky just texted me a GIF from The Office. So funny that
There
you
you go.
said The Office. Anyways,
The
Devin
world.
Booker.
What an interesting place.
This year compared to last year, good, better, even better. What
I
are you
think he'll
going
be
with?
better this year. I think it's not necessarily he's gonna do better on the stat sheet than 27 points, whatever it was, 6 or 7 assists, 5 rebounds. I think it's because if you factor in the defensive side of the ball, he is no longer in charge of the brunt of the playmaking and the ball handling. And I think that's going to free him up to be in attack mode on offense. And I think that's going to hopefully conserve energy and just mental willpower for the defensive end, because we know defensively last year wasn't his best season. So I do think he'll be slightly better, maybe not on the stat sheet, but in terms of overall two-way impact, I think he'll have a better year this year. And he was already great last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be better. Again, may not be in total points or anything. It may not be that his stats necessarily are better, and the counting stats, in particular assists, I imagine that probably drops back a little bit. Maybe he gets a point or two on the average, but on the defensive end of the ball, I think we're seeing a guy that was locked in very much like he was in the Olympics, and a guy that, if there's anybody on this roster that's going to be motivated by last year, how bad it played out in terms of the national narrative, the fact that everybody seems to have written this team off for this year, and in some ways him, I think he comes back with a vengeance. That is just the way he's wired.
Yeah.
Other guys maybe not on this roster, but that is 100% Devin Booker, and I think it's going to be that, and I took that personally.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely coming for Devin Booker. So I agree with you. I think he's better, even if it's just slightly than he was last year. All right. Everybody's favorite. We're going here. Bradley Beal, third on our list. Is Bradley Beal of 23-24 going to be a guy we look back and go, well, that was an aberration, and 24-25, well, that's the Bradley Beal we thought we were getting.
Again, I've said this a couple of times when we brought up Bradley Beal. I don't think there's going to be a huge difference in his numbers, maybe a little bit of an increase in the scoring column, but I do think he was super efficient last year in his role. I think someone has to sacrifice a little bit out of that big three, and I don't think it's going to be Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. I think Beal is going to have to work the most in terms of what is his role going to look like. How are we going to put him in positions to succeed the same way that we are KD and Book? I think there's a challenge there, but I do think just by virtue of hopefully having a healthier season and, the experience of playing with the big three, even if it was only for half the season, 40, 41 games, whatever it was, I do think hopefully he'll be a little bit more acclimated. His role will be more concrete. It won't be changing constantly. And if you combine that with just being a little bit healthier this season, I think he'll be slightly better than last year.
Oh, I think he's going to be a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
The Beal Assance is on, like I've told you. Remember, when Bradley Beal has turned that corner and everybody's like, man, we really were wrong about him last year. I told you first, right here, right? Gerald was along with me, but I'm just going to say I told you first. The Beal Assance is on. I think he's going to average 21, 22 points.
Okay.
I think we're going to see an uptick there. Obviously, I think he'll come down a little bit in assists as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the point guard situation. I think he'll stay as effective. And I think you're right. With having a solidified role, we're going to see a guy who's a lot more comfortable on both sides of the ball this year. And he's going to get back to attacking the rim where he didn't exactly get to do that with all the injuries last year.
He could do the same thing, average the same stats, but play more games, and the Suns win more games, and the entire narrative around him will shift.
Right.
He doesn't really have to do anything that differently this season.
Just stay healthier, Suns win more games, and just have more. I will say, I think it's going to be, especially at the start of the season, I think it will take some trial and error to figure out how they are going to get the big three the ball in their spots when they have a point guard that's running the show for them. There will be some balance and some give and take there, and I think it'll be a trial and error process. But I think eventually, as long as they keep him in a similar role and aren't, now you're the point guard, now you're our defensive lockdown guy, now we need you to drive 20 times a game, I think it'll be a lot more consistent.
Agreed. All right. Our next on the list, we're going to look at Yusuf Nurkic. Last year was kind of that fourth option, fourth most important. This year, Tyus Jones on that list. This definitely two different pictures.
Yes. This is the first one.
I don't know, Espo. These don't look the same to me.
Is it just the lighting?
Same beards, most. If you look at what Nurk meant to this team last year as kind of that fourth option, the fourth most important guy, and Tyus Jones this year, do you think this is a better number four kind of in the slot?
I hope so. And I think because last year heading into the season, we couldn't definitively answer who our fourth best player was. Like, we thought it might be Nurk. We thought it might be Grayson. We thought it might be Keita Bates-Diop or Josh Okogie. Like, we didn't know who that fourth best player was going to be. And this year, I think we don't know for sure, but it's because we have several decent options, I guess. And I think Tyus Jones is going to look fantastic being able to run the show for this type of offense. For Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, that's a big difference between, Kyle Kuzma and Deni Avdija and the guys that he was setting up in Washington last season.
You leave Bilal Coulibaly alone.
I love Bilal, but Bilal and Book are a little different playing field. So I think he's going to look fantastic. I think he's going to set a career high for assists per game this year pretty easily. And I think having those options around him is going to help him be more efficient as a shooter and as a scorer as well.
Look, this is exactly what you needed. So when you're looking at slotting him in there as the fourth most important, that's the way we're looking at it for this premise. He's going to have a bigger impact than Nurk had last year. I don't think there's a doubt in my mind that they've improved by simply having him be that guy here. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility he averages 9 or 10 assists. Just because you saw what he did with that poo-poo platter of a roster, that sorry excuse of a tanking NBA franchise in Washington last year. And now you put him with a bunch of guys that can basically score automatically if you put him in the right situation. I think he's going to be very good. Yes, Landry Shamet shows up on the screen. He was part of that poo-poo platter.
Anytime the Wizards are mentioned, Landry Shamet, that looks like flex, gets popped up on the screen.
It's just a phenomenal photo, really.
It really, I mean, it's one of those media day photos that guys wind up regretting. We all know
100%
know those. But yeah, I just look at it and I think he's going to have such an impact on this roster that it's crazy if anybody thinks that just when you're looking 1 through 4 right now, that this isn't a better team than they were last year.
Yeah, we're already seeing division, and as we continue to go, especially in this next segment, I think the divide is going to be a lot more noticeable too.
Well, this next one, let's see what the divide looks like with our 5th guy that we're looking at. Grayson Allen versus Grayson Allen. Look, okay, I'm telling you, the one on the right, not new Grayson, because it's not jacked enough.
Okay, well, yes, there is that.
Yes, these are the same picture.
They are the
As
same photo
established.
again. Cannot emphasize that enough. but I will say, I think, okay, heading in, it depends on if we're talking about their season as a whole, where we ranked last year's team, or if we're talking about where we thought they would be heading into the season. Because
I think it's got to be at this point last year. What are you looking at?
So at this point last year, we were not expecting a career year from Grayson, leading the league in 3-point percentage, solidifying himself without a doubt as the 5th starter. Because you remember last year we were talking about, okay, it could be Grayson. It could also be Keita Bates-Diop or Josh Okogie. I was pushing for Josh Okogie. A lot of people were pushing for KBD just because of the defensive size that he would bring on the wing. And Grayson wound up just coming in there and taking that role and never looking back, basically. So I don't know if I expect a career year from Grayson again, especially in a bench role. But if we're doing it at what we thought he would be at the start of the season, I think this upcoming Grayson Allen is pretty much what I thought he would be last year, which is a solid 3-point shooter coming off your bench, a really good role player. So I would say probably equal.
Yeah. Can you have worse numbers and yet have a bigger impact?
You can.
Because I kind of feel like that's where we may be with Grayson.
Okay.
Where it's not going to feel as unbelievable as last year. He's not going to look, he's not going to be the second in 3-point field goal percent. I don't think that happens. Maybe top 5, but I don't think he's going to be as good in terms of looking at straight numbers as he was. But I think when some of those shots happen, it could be more impactful. Like there could be a path where you look back and you go, yeah, sure, he only averaged 10 points or whatever this year, but he had some of the biggest shots that they needed from deep at certain times, you know, where again, that gravity we talked about last year actually shows up finally and changes the equation in some ways. I think we could see that, but if we're looking at straight what we expected and numbers, at best it's equal. I think it might be slightly worse.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined. I would put it at equal if we're measuring by what we expected from Grayson at this point last year, because it's pretty much the same for me. But if we're talking about the season he had last year versus what we're currently expecting heading into next year, I think it's slightly less just because of the, you know, he'll be coming off the bench now instead of starting.
I will say, you know, if he truly has added some muscle in that way, like that video and the pictures suggested, that he might be able to do a little bit more and cut to the basket a little bit more. I know we saw it at times, but you always cringed because you're like, oh my gosh, please don't hurt yourself. That may be of benefit, but we'll see. 6 on the list last year, our friend Keita Bates-Diop, but this year, Yusuf Nurkic.
Just the fact that Nurk on last year's list was probably number 4 and this year he's probably number 6 is an improvement for me. The fact that I think we were expecting a lot more out of KBD than we got. And I think that's an understatement. We were expecting him to be the 5th starter. We were expecting him to knock down threes at a 37, 38% clip. He was coming off that career year with the Spurs where he shot the ball really well. He was going to be a multi-positional defender, exactly what the starting lineup needed. And then it just felt like he could barely get on the floor. And when he did, he looked great defensively, but practically unusable on the offensive end. So the fact that they jettisoned him and 3 other guys at the trade deadline was not a surprise. We've clearly upgraded in this respect.
100%. I mean, you're talking about a guy that set the single game rebounding record in Suns history last year, and a guy that they traded for spare parts. Like that, there's no doubt that just in this slot, this team has gotten significantly better. And we're not just having a hope and a prayer that it works out. Nurk, for whatever you feel his deficiencies are, is still a very good starting center, a guy who can rebound the ball, a guy who can pass when necessary and sets good screens. Like, that's like 5 more things than you ever got out of Keita Bates-Diop. So yeah, this is a massive improvement when it comes to where this team was last year. Last one before we take a break, we're going to take a look at Royce O'Neal and Eric Gordon.
Yeah, you've upgraded again, because I think, again, we were expecting a little bit more than we got out of Eric Gordon last year. Obviously, he didn't mind letting the 3-ball fly, and he was one of their better shooters and more consistent, or more frequent shooters, I should say.
Frequent, yes.
But, I mean, Royce can play both ends, and I feel like that alone helps separate him here. The fact that hopefully Royce will not be dealing with as many injuries as Eric Gordon did, and Royce is just a better player at this point in his career than Eric Gordon was at this point.
Yeah, just
Like,
slightly. If Royce O'Neal doesn't, jump up in the air and kind of get caught not knowing if he's shooting or passing, if he does it less than 15 times this year, it's already an improvement.
I'm sorry, I will miss that.
I mean, that's legit. If he just does that one thing, you've already got a more valuable player.
So don't get me wrong. Royce O'Neal, better than Eric Gordon. But it is nice to have somebody on this team. It's comforting that will go literally so ice cold, it's unimaginable. And then the next game go like 6 or 7 from 3. It's just comforting for somebody who got used to watching Eric Gordon play basketball.
Yeah, doesn't phase him.
Well, I mean, Royce can do that too. I mean, so at least you still fill that void in that way. So
the only thing that Eric Gordon does better than Royce O'Neal, and it's actually not even particularly close, is driving to the rim. Yes. Because Royce O'Neal, anywhere
he's
inside
allergic.
the 3-point line,
Yeah.
like even on a fast break, don't expect 2 points.
No,
well,
don't.
Let's
he's
just
allergic
say
to doing it
they
too.
both were about as efficient at the rim as each other last year. They both struggled.
There was a point of time
mightily.
where every time Eric Gordon drove to the rim, it was like, who's going to block his shot now?
Yeah.
You guys were too hard on EG's drives. They needed him.
Yeah,
needed him.
I think he did a decent job, but like they were relying on it way too much.
If they were contested, he was in trouble. Yeah.
All right. I have to address our friend Nacho in the chat. He was talking about off-season workout videos and that we haven't seen one from his friend Bradley Beal.
Oh, yeah.
Espo seems angry. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, here we go.
I do not care about workout videos in the summer.
Yeah.
What? No, I don't need you to send me this highly produced edit of you running around in a gym. Congratulations, you're doing your job in the summer. I don't need to see it. I actually appreciate that Bradley Beal wasn't like, you know what? I really need to flex for the gram because that's going to help me win back these people. I don't need to know you're working out. We assume you are, because if you're not doing your job. But I don't need to see it. This isn't show me your work, right? This isn't middle school math. I don't need you to submit the video so I know that it happened, all right? Workout videos mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. Believe me, I've seen some pretty bad guys put out some pretty good workout videos in the summer, and it did not mean diddly squat when you got to the regular season.
The annual Ben Simmons workout video.
Ben Simmons.
Nacho would rather have Ben Simmons than Bradley Beal at this point.
Ben Simmons has hit 10 threes in this workout video. Nobody says, though, that's 100 shots he took. Yeah. They edited in the best ones.
Yeah.
Hey, he's feeling better than ever. He's healthy, okay?
He's ready to work.
Don't hate on Ben Simmons.
He's ready to get to work. That's always my favorite. No, these guys all play ball over the summer just because some record it and some don't. Doesn't matter. Unless he shows up to media day looking like 30 pounds heavier, I'm going to believe he's been working out this whole summer, because that's what these guys do. They play ball all the time.
I want to see an athlete just, instead of workout videos all summer, it's him on the couch eating some chips, and then just drop one every couple of weeks just to troll everybody.
That's basically what Anthony Davis did. I remember one time he's like, man, I haven't touched a basketball in like 3 months. And the entire NBA Twitter was like, what?
Yeah, they lost
3
their
months?
minds.
Yeah. So Ashley in the chat, I don't think it was Ashley. Somebody asked, about, oh, Andy it was, what about a Rocky montage video?
That'd be
Now
cool.
that's different
That'd be
because
cool.
that's almost parody at that point.
Right,
I
you're
respect
leaning
that.
into the cheesiness of the off-season workout video.
Yeah, like if Bradley Beal put out a video and he's like hitting a side of beef in a freezer and then he's running upstairs at the arena, like, okay, I'm in on that. But
Bradley
workout
Beal
video,
has beef.
Yeah, we all have
Beefly
beef.
Beal.
That's Espo seems angry
Bradley
for
Beef.
another day. Bradley Beef. We have more guys to look at in the roster to prove to you that the Suns are better than last year. And we'll get to it right after this break. I love hats. I know it's ironic to say that today because I wanted to show off my new haircut.
You want to redeem
But
yourself
I
and
love
catch this
hats.
hat right now?
Sure. Eric's going to throw me a hat from our friends at Branded Bills. I'm going to put it on. And yeah, that one fits my head. So we're going to, our friends at Branded Bills make some of the best hats that I have seen. I got to tell you, I love me some Branded Bills. Eric, you have a really small head, dude. There we go. I love the Branded Bills hats, even though I'm wearing an ASU one right now. They've got great ones. They've got Wildcats. They've got GCU. They've got Sun Devils. Even if you go out to the arena, they got Suns. They're some of the best made hats I've ever worn. I actually just bought a few more for myself. They're supposed to be at my house tomorrow. And you can get your own if you use the promo code PHNX with Branded Bills. You're going to save 20% off your order. They're from Mesa. Everything good comes from Mesa like me. So make sure to check out our friends at Branded Bills and use that promo code PHNX. You know what else I like? A good ticket to a sporting event, concert, or even a good play. And our friends at Game Time take care of that for you. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets, no matter what you're looking for. And their Game Time picks, there's thousands of tickets that you can look at on Game Time, and thousands of tickets out there that you can try to find for these events. But they take the guesswork out of it with their Game Time picks. They find you the best seats and the best value, and you don't have to worry about it. It's like, here's the highlight reel of tickets. This is what you want, and you find them, you decide what you want, and it's super easy to buy them. Plus, they've got all sorts of guarantees about them as well. They'll take care of you. So right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that promo code PHNX. You're getting $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and dream code PHNX for $20 off. What time is it? Game time. Ooh. Look at that.
Beautiful.
I don't think I got anywhere near Eric with that.
The dismount wasn't great, but it's
No,
fine.
it looked cool. Thank you for the hat, Eric. We're going to jump back in and look at the next 7 on the roster. And I think we're going to start with Monte Morris and Josh Okogie. And I don't think that there is any doubt in this. And Gerald, if you argue with me, I am sending you to get your head examined. Monte Morris significantly better than Josh Okogie was for the rotation last year.
I hope so. I don't know about significantly. I think we still have questions about what is Monte going to look like coming off the injury-riddled season. But assuming he is fine and fully healthy, I think he is going to be able to have an impact on both ends. You're looking at me like I'm crazy, but the guy only played like 29 games last year. So let's not act like this is for sure a thing that we know Monte Morris is going to be, legit and stable and solid.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we didn't know Josh Okogie was going to be legit, stable, and solid, and it turned out he wasn't as a rotational fixture.
But we had our questions.
Yeah,
just like I have my questions now.
Look, I think there's a higher percentage that Monte Morris has a positive impact on this roster more so than Josh Okogie did last year, and a more consistent impact, which is the biggest thing. I mean, if Monte Morris is getting consistent minutes and having an impact, that's already an improvement on the roster, because Josh Okogie went MIA throughout the year. Not necessarily always because of his own doing, but fell in and out of favor with Frank Vogel. And if Monte Morris stays in Bud's good graces, has an impact on the floor, it's already an improvement to me. This is probably my favorite one on the list.
Okay.
It is Mason Plumlee and, our boy Drew Eubanks.
Oh, man. That picture for Drew, man. Oh, boy.
This is the exact face that Eubanks made when Katie yelled at him every single game.
I'm not going to get it. I was going to go on a whole riff about what that looked like.
I know. Let's leave it
I'm
alone. Yeah,
Let's just say I'm not surprised Isaiah Stewart wanted to punch him. That's what that photo says to me.
I have no
You
comment.
can't comment. I
No
understand.
comment. But I do think heading into last year, we thought Drew Eubanks was going to be a lot better than he was. Like, I will admit, I was a lot higher. I was higher on Drew Eubanks than any offseason acquisition they made outside of KBD. I liked KBD a lot. I liked Drew Eubanks a lot. Of course, neither one of those played anything like they had the season before in their last stop. So I think it's Mason. I do think Mason, obviously Mason will be better than Drew Eubanks was last year. Like, I feel like that's pretty, like, he'd have to be really bad to be worse than Drew Eubanks was last year. But at this point, heading into the offseason, I'd say probably about equal in terms of my expectations.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're looking at where we thought going into the season, for sure. But the difference with me is Mason Plumlee knows who he is.
Yes.
Mason Plumlee knows what he's good at, what he's not going to be good at, and he's going to stick to the things that he can accomplish. I don't think Drew Eubanks ever really had that feel, and I think Coach Bud's going to use Mason Plumlee in a way that is advantageous to his skill set, and hopefully that is enough to just make him a backup center that you can count on. Because you didn't have that last year with Drew Eubanks. You couldn't pencil in, I know I can expect at least this from this guy. With Mason Plumlee, I feel as long as he stays healthy, which is an if, you know, that he'll be able to consistently give you backup minutes that you need. So.
And to Ted Offensive's point in the chat, at least just from basic, we didn't lose a second rounder for tampering for Mason Plumlee. So already he's got a leg up there.
Not that that we're aware of.
So far.
The investigation could be ongoing.
So
we
far.
do not know. Next, this one, I know how the people are going to react to it. It's Jordan Goodwin and Bol Bol.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I thought Jordan Goodwin would be better than he was. I wasn't as high on him as like a KBD or even a Eubanks, but I thought he would be able to give them a little bit more in terms of a backup point guard, because his playmaking for the first couple seasons in Washington was actually pretty impressive. And then he came here, took a lot of bad shots, a lot of turnovers, wasn't a playmaker at all. I do think we're a lot higher on Bol heading into this season than we were last year this time with Jordan Goodwin.
I drank the Kool-Aid last year.
With
I'm
Goodwin?
not gonna lie. I thought you had something in Goodwin and that you pulled one over on Washington, and I should have realized he's a wizard. So
Come on,
you know,
man.
like,
you can't do that because we have several on
mean,
the team now.
I mean, you can.
We have a lot.
You know, look, I really had bought into him last year going into it, and maybe it was copium, maybe it was hopium, I don't know. But I looked at it, and look, Bol's going to be more valuable this year than Jordan Goodwin was. I don't know, expectation wise going into the season, I probably have him about the same, but again, I was high on Jordan Goodwin, and I think Bol will have a very impactful year in limited minutes.
I will say there was a stretch during the season last year. It was early on when the Suns were struggling with fourth quarters, and Jordan Goodwin came in at the start of a couple of fourth quarters and just like lit it up. Like he scored like double-digit points to start the fourth, kept the Suns, you know, afloat without their main guys in there. And then I think he just got so confident from that, he started taking terrible shots and he was missing all of them. So he basically became a more confident Josh Okogie at that point, which was not great. But yeah, I think Bol, my expectations are a little bit higher for Bol than they were for Goodwin.
Is there a scarier phrase than a more confident Josh Okogie when you're talking about 3-point shooting?
I mean, I would love Josh Okogie to be more confident, but he was like more confident Josh Okogie in the fact that he thought he was like Kobe with some of the shots he was taking, which was a
They
rough
need to
combo.
Goldilocks it. Find the right center, right in the middle.
Just right.
Okay. Yuta Watanabe and Ryan Dunn. Could we have opposite ends of the spectrum? One you thought was going to be an elite 3-point shooter. The other one you hope is going to be elite defender.
Yeah. No, it depends on who you ask, though, because I do think a lot of people were pretty high on Yuta heading into the season. Like some people were talking about him being the 5th starter even. I was nowhere near as high as that. I thought he would just come in and hit threes, kind of like a Damian Lee. Ryan Dunn, I'm higher on for different reasons. I think he'll be able to stay in the rotation just because he addresses a very specific need in terms of what they need defensively. And I think he can make up for the lack of 3-point shooting as a cutter, as, a demon in transition, because that guy is athletic as hell. He can turn defense into offense. I would probably say greater than for this one.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think it's greater than, because the potential is so much higher when you look at Ryan Dunn. You kind of knew what Yuta Watanabe was, and you just hoped he hit at a high enough average to keep him in the rotation. He never did from behind the line. And so what you hope with Ryan Dunn is, even if he's not hitting offensively, he can be impactful in certain defensive situations, like you said, and be impactful in cutting to the basket. This is definitely a greater than. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind in any way, shape, or form. Next, Nasir Little and Josh Okogie. So I was hard on Nasir Little when he left, and unfairly so. But I think there was a lot of hope at what his athleticism could have meant to this roster last year. But I think this is kind of equal to, because you really don't know what you're going to get, if anything, out of him.
Yeah, I had no idea what to expect from Nas last year, because a lot of Portland people were telling me, oh, he'll definitely be part of the Suns rotation. Like, looking at your guys' roster, he should definitely be coming in off the bench and playing minutes. And then we saw him for some of those minutes, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this guy is what you really want in your rotation. And then he struggled shooting the ball in a way that he really didn't the last couple seasons in Portland. I think I have higher expectations for Josh this year than I did for Nas heading into last year, just because I didn't think Nas was going to play very much. I thought he was a young guy that might take time to mold, and that wound up looking like the real thing, except the Suns didn't have time to develop him. So I think with Josh, you know what he's going to contribute at least. You know where he's going to struggle at least. And if you do need a point of attack defender, you can call on him. With Nas, I didn't think there was like any one area where you look at Nas's game like, oh, we can definitely use him here.
I think you're a little higher on Josh than I am. I just don't think if that shot does not fall at a consistent basis, and I'm not saying he has to be a 43% 3-point shooter, but if you don't get it to hit on wide open shots on a consistent basis, I don't see him getting on the floor. Obviously, it'd be for different reasons than why Nas didn't get on the floor, but I'm not feeling very high on him. I think this is equal. I don't think it's an improvement or not. I just think this is equal. I think you're going to get very little on that front, and I hope I'm surprised. Like Josh is a nice guy, works hard. I really hope I'm surprised on that front. But shooting, well, we know what that means. Chimezie Metu and Oso Ighodaro.
Yeah, so heading into last season, the reason why Metu is so low on this list compared to guys that I think he played better than, like Yuta or whatever, is because we're basing this off of our expectations heading into the season. I had zero. I didn't think Chimezie was going to play like at all. I thought he was best suited for one position, and his only path to minutes was in a different position. He actually played really well when he was in there. Not well enough for them to exclude him from the trade when they shipped him out. But I think Oso's ceiling is much higher. And I think there's a path to minutes for him more so than I did with Mezzi last year, in terms of if we need a mobile big, a defensive big, you're going to be kind of the guy that we look to as opposed to Nurk or Mason. I'm
putting the chaps on it. I'm going to ride the fence. I think it can be a greater than.
Well, that's not the exercise.
Well, I'm sitting in the host chair. I can make the exercise whatever I want.
It can be any of these things.
Well, no, from this perspective, Oso's going to have to find a way to get that opportunity in games where the matchup at center doesn't go in the Suns' favor, right?
Sure.
And so he has to first be able to get those opportunities, regardless of it. That has little to do with him, I think. It's going to have a lot to do with matchups and how Nurk and Mason are adjusting to it, or injury. But I think once he gets in, he's going to take advantage of those minutes and play well enough to earn more. So I'm going to say it's an upgrade, but I'm not going to say it's a huge one because I think they both are in a similar situation or were in terms of a path to playing time and how much it makes sense.
Okay.
And our final one, Bol and Damian Lee. Again, this is Bol last year going into the season, Damian Lee this year going into the season.
I would probably say equal, just because heading into last season, I didn't think Bol was going to get minutes at all. I thought they would be garbage time minutes, and for the first half of the season, that's basically what it was, because when he went in there, those minutes were rough, and then he kind of worked his way to get that opportunity because the Suns needed something else, because he was impressing in scrimmages behind the scenes. So he earned his way into that rotation. D. Lee, I can't really give you what my expectations for him are, because he's coming off that injury. He's been away from the game, like actual NBA games, for a whole year. That's really tough to come back from. I think he could help with the 3-point shooting if he does get opportunities, if there's an injury to a Grayson or a Book or a Beal or someone. But as of right now, I don't know if I would slot him in the rotation. So I would say they're pretty much exactly equal in terms of what I expected. I don't expect either one to play that much except for spot minutes.
If we're basing it on expectations, and everybody, I own my past transgressions. I thought Bol, I used to call him Sideshow Bol because I didn't think he was anything more than a reason for people to get excited when things weren't going well, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was my expectation going into last season. I've seen the light. I've come around from there, obviously. But if we're looking at where I was last year compared to where I am with Damian Lee, I think it's an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually have an expectation that Damian Lee might get opportunity because he has a skill set that they're going to need at some point in 3-point shooting. And we know that this backcourt has had a propensity for some injuries. I mean, I guess technically they're not the backcourt anymore, but Devin and Brad and even Monte Morris to an extent have had injury questions. So I think that you could see a path that Damian Lee's going to get an opportunity because of that. And we've seen him hit the 3-point ball on a regular basis before. So I look at it and I think it's actually an improvement.
Yeah,
So
no, that's fair.
to put a bow on all this, is this team better than last year?
Yeah.
Deeper?
Yes. Significantly so.
Then why in the world is everybody sleeping on this team?
Because I think it's same as last summer, where people are going to look at what the Suns added and they're going to say, well, vet minimum guys are vet minimum guys for a reason, even though Tyus Jones had no business being a vet minimum guy. Even though people liked the addition of Monte and Mason, they're still going to look at them as they were injured last year. They're vet minimum guys. They're not going to move the needle that much. They're going to look at the Suns and say, okay, they added 2 rookies. Great, good for them. But that's more of a long-term help than it is this upcoming season. So, you know, I think they're going to be better than people are expecting, but I do think if you look around the West, there are other teams that you look at first and go like, well, that team has the best player on earth in Nikola Jokic, or that team has Luka, or, you know, the Timberwolves, they have another year together and look at this run they just made. So there's other teams that are more attractive in that way, but I think that's kind of helping the Suns fly under the radar a little bit.
Look, I know it's not cool anymore, but if I were the Suns, my intro video would be to enter Sandman. I'd be telling the rest of the league and all the haters to sleep with one eye open.
There you go.
You want to sleep on this team, that's going to happen on your own, at your own peril. And I think that that's going to be the case. When we come back, I want to talk about, is Bradley Beal really the 14th best third option in the NBA? That on the other side of the break. Okay, I gotta tell you something. I've never seen a sponsor do this before, ever. Our friends at Sanderson Ford said, you don't need to read anything about our product, nothing other than Al McCoy was a beloved part of the Sanderson Ford family, and we want you to take the minute and talk about Al. And I think that's amazing because Al had such an impact, like we talked earlier in the week, on this city, on the NBA. I mean, heck, the New York Yankees broadcast the other day honored him. Greg Stanton, and this isn't political, but a congressman on the floor of the House did 2 minutes to honor Al McCoy in Washington, D.C. This man had such a huge impact on everybody in this valley. And thank you for all you did, Al, and your involvement in all the great charities that you were involved with and with Sanderson Ford's Operation Santa Claus. So hats off to them. No easy transition. So I'm just going to tell you about our friends over Gila River Resorts and Casinos, one of my favorite places to hang out, whether it's the weekend or an evening. You want to get some fast food or some high-end quality steaks. You can do all that, plus the best gaming floor in the desert is at one of the 4 locations of Gila River Resorts and Casinos: Wild Horse Pass, Lone Butte, Vicuiva, or Santan Mountain. They've got everything that you want for an amazing night on the town. And you know what? You can come out and watch Cardinals away games with us out at Wild Horse Pass. Our Cardinals crew, Johnny, Bo, Damon is out there. Craig's out there as well, calling in from whatever stadium we've sent him out to. You can catch up with the guys out at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. I want to get into a list that Yahoo Sports put together earlier this week, and they put together the top first options, second options, and third options
that they did
in the NBA. I'm going to start with first and second options. They list Kevin Durant as the Suns' first option. Devin Booker got no, honorable mention potentially as that, but they have Kevin Durant as the 10th best first option in the NBA behind Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Tatum, Shea, Curry, Wemby, Ant, and Embiid. Really?
Ooh, buddy. That's wild.
It's disrespectful.
Okay, look, I love Wemby, and I think he's going to be a monster in year 2, but that's a lot of projection and a lot of early respect to put Wemby above a player like Kevin Durant in terms of first options on a team. And I know that Wemby is a defensive monster as well. He's going to own the league in probably 2 to 3 years, but that feels premature. I'm sorry, but the Ant hype train has gotten out of control if we're putting Anthony Edwards above Kevin Durant without projecting that KD is going to be like injured the whole time. That's crazy to me.
Well, still, I would take Kevin Durant playing a quarter of the season as a better number 1 option than Anthony Edwards. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anthony Edwards is not. Devin Booker's a better number 1 option than Anthony Edwards.
Well, we can get into that, but yeah, no, I don't know. I would have had KD. That's the thing. Like Tatum being that high is crazy to me. Not because Tatum's a bad player. I'm not here to rip on Tatum, but the dude, as soon as the playoffs start, could not hit a jump shot, and it extended through the entire Olympics. He has the best team around him in the NBA. He has the best supporting cast in the NBA. So as much as Tatum is a good player and doesn't deserve a lot of the slack that he gets, putting him ahead of KD at this point is crazy. Like Shea, I could understand. Dude was an MVP candidate. He's going to be unreal. Jokic, Luka, Giannis, I get. Curry, maybe, but where was Curry's team last year compared to where the Suns were? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, the reality to me is he's probably 4 and could wind up 5 depending on what Shea does. Jokic, Luka, Giannis, KD.
Yeah, KD, Shea. Yeah.
I mean, Shea can move into that this year if he carries through what he did last year. But right now,
I think Shea's there. I think Shea's there already.
It's Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but Shea was top 5 MVP voting. Like Shea, I love KD, and KD's right after that. I think Shea's moved in that spot.
Okay, 3 years ago, Devin Booker was the 4th in MVP voting, and they don't even have him as a number 1 option in this.
I love Devin Booker, but
someone on each team had to take the number 1 option.
Why can't they both be number 1 options?
Because
that's not how that works.
Because KD was their best player last year. He's their. If you're projecting, he's probably going to be their best player again this year. So you can't have both. You got to have
fair
one.
Enough. I just think KD is ahead of Shea right now based on track record, and that could change this year. Number 2 option, Devin Booker is 2nd behind Anthony Davis. How do you feel here?
Man, look, Anthony Davis. The only reason Anthony Davis is this high is because of the defensive side of the ball. Like, and I get it. Basketball obviously takes into account both sides of the equation. But like in terms of just being a leading scorer or a second option or whatever, I would put Book number 1 there.
Yeah, I tend to agree that Book would be, plus availability. Like as much as we want to say, oh, Devin Booker has some injury issues. Anthony Davis, I mean, really, like that's a walking injury issue. I know he had a pretty healthy year last year.
He did.
But if you look at track record, that's certainly
he had a great
something
season.
you got to consider. So look, that's number 2 isn't bad though. I'll say that. This one is the one that I think is insanely egregious.
Crazy.
Number 3 options. Bradley Beal is 14th in the league. So almost half the teams have a better number 3 option in Yahoo's mind. Gobert, Porzingis, Chet, Desmond Bane, Evan Mobley, DeMar DeRozan, Mikal Bridges, Draymond, Miles Turner, Chris Middleton, DeJounte Murray, and Fred VanVleet.
And Paul George, the number 1. But
I mean, I can give you Paul George.
Paul George makes sense. Even if you want to like throw in, like obviously defense is factoring very heavily here in team success because they got Gobert and Porzingis that high. But like Draymond in the year 2024 of our Lord,
Miles
still
Turner, really?
Like Chris Middleton did not have a better season than Bradley Beal did last year.
No.
In terms of his stats, his impact, his defense, whatever. Fred, like I feel like King Nacho wrote this list. Did you write this list on Yahoo, King Nacho? Because I think you did.
No, because he's 14th, not
29th. Yeah. Okay.
He's like, oh, that guy in Washington who played a lot in the G League last year. Yeah, that's a good third option.
DeJounte is pretty low. Also,
I agree.
I will say.
I think DeJounte probably is, but new team, got to figure out what that looks like.
Evan Mobley is very high for a guy that didn't make the offensive leap that everyone wanted last year.
Yeah, I think Desmond Bane. Yeah, I mean, Chet, obviously, Porzingis, yeah. I mean, maybe DeMar DeRozan, depending on what he looks like in a Kings uniform. Okay, I can get that. But 14th is just ridiculous. You know what's second to none, Gerald?
What?
Well, you, but
thank you.
Also becoming a diehard.
That is true.
Because when you become a diehard, you get some of the best writing in the Valley, primarily done by our 3 writers, Gerald, Craig, and Jesse, all of which are conveniently to my left over here. But you know what? Sometimes you get a bonus from me as well. I actually wrote my 2 articles for the year.
You
this
really
week,
did.
So
You met your quota.
I'm done. You also get discounted events, free merch, diehard Discord, and exclusive content. Like I said,
you're the Mariah Carey of writing articles for this place. You come out for like a week every year. You do a week's worth of work, and then you just bank on those royalties on the writing side.
Sometimes when you're that good, you're that good. I don't want to embarrass you guys all the time.
Hey, man, that's fair.
So become a diehard today. Go to gophnx.com and sign up. You won't regret it. I promise you that. I'll guarantee it as well. I'll personally pay you back if you regret it. All right?
Oh, wow.
I won't, but I'll say
it.
So that is our program for today. You can follow White Noise Behind the Mac at Eric Ruby. That's Eric with a K. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourguet. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. You can follow me at Espo. And Kaminsky Cove is back, baby. Let's go swimming. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.